Welcome back. I'm Scott Smith, your exotic pet keeping realtor. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my first time home buying experience and why I chose to do it in a market that so many people are afraid of and sitting on the sidelines for here in 2024. First, I rented for a long time. I started renting at the age of 18 and bought a house at the age of 39. That's 21 years of rent. I'm pretty sure I spent about $300,000 on rent, and I can't even tell you how much I would love to have all that equity. But in reality, I wasn't even in the position to buy a house till this year. I'm never going to be that realtor that tells you not to rent, because there's pluses renting and minuses of renting, and we all know them. But I want to get you thinking that maybe this is the time for you to buy a house, and don't be afraid what everyone's telling you, because it's a perfect time to buy a house for somebody out there. And here's my story. Let's get to it. April 2024, my lease at the house we had rented had switched to month since we had already passed the lease term, and I had an extremely lazy property manager who did not keep up with his rentals. So I knew we either needed to renew our lease with a rent increase or finally look into buying our own home. Now, a huge part of buying your own home with a mortgage and not cash is making sure your employment, your credit, and your current monthly debt are in as good a shape as possible, since these are huge factors in getting a mortgage. We had been working on these really hard for the last 4 years, and I thought this might be the time we officially became homeowners. Another huge reason I wanted to buy my own house was because of all my pets. I was definitely not disclosing all the exotic pets I had in my rental, and the stress alone was one of the biggest deciding factors I've been thinking about for years at this point. It's kind of crazy to me how rentals will allow you to have dogs and cats that can easily wreak havoc on a rental property, but a little gecko or a couple snakes that are locked in enclosures in a specific room could get me evicted if they were ever seen by the property management company. So with all this, we decided to see how fast we could buy our first home. Your first step should always be going to get pre-approved through a lender, so you have an idea of how much house you can actually afford, so you're not disappointed when you go window shopping on Zillow or Realtor.com and see a house you love and it's something you can't even get a mortgage on because you can't afford it. Next, we started talking about location, because location is almost always the biggest factor when buying a new home. We were currently in far north San Antonio and loved it. We both worked from home and knew we could live in a range of different places, but still wanted to make sure we had certain things close to us and bought the right house that fit our needs, since we did work at home. We thought about moving down by South Padre Island, but the more we weighed out our options down there at South Padre, realized we did not want to be super far away from all the other cool things we enjoyed doing in the San Antonio-Austin corridor. We liked the quietness of North San Antonio and living in the edge of the hill country, and wanted something similar. With all this in mind, we started looking at resale homes, which are homes that are not new and sold by someone that's already been living in them. We originally thought we could find another home with big trees in an established neighborhood, and we were just running into obstacles that were deterring us from picking one. Foundation issues was a huge one, 10-year-old air conditioning units, 15-year-old roofs, single pane windows, just outdated homes in general that needed work that I did not want to have to do to be happy with my purchase. Then on top of that, I started running numbers, looking at the current interest rates back in April of 2024 that were in like the high 6s and 7s, which was making my payment more than I wanted to pay for a resale home. So I talked to my wife and we started to look at pros and cons of buying a new home in a new construction neighborhood, which took us back to square one of the drawing board. Now I was in the mindset of thinking about the next 10 years. Since we know this will not be our forever home, I was on this mission of getting the best deal possible at that time that I would be happy with and could get me out of renting. I was looking on both sides of I-35 between San Antonio and North New Braunfels. We had considered New Braunfels a few years back when we moved back to Texas, but ended up in San Antonio. So New Braunfels was always on our radar. And New Braunfels is a super hot spot right now and seems to only be growing more and more every year. But the population is only like 115,000 compared to the 1+ million in San Antonio. Also, the thought of being near the Comal and Guadalupe rivers seemed pretty awesome since we love the water. So we decided New Braunfels is on the top of our list for our first home location. So we started looking. First, we looked all up and down Highway 46 going towards Seguin. There was tons of options out there, and they were building out there for years and years to come, since there was so much undeveloped farmland east of I-35. But we just didn't think that was a spot for us. Then, a couple weeks into our search, I tapped into this local Facebook group I'm in and posted about what I was looking for, and a salesperson reached out to me and said he had a couple spec homes that we might be interested in coming looking at that fit our criteria. Now, my criteria was I wanted at least a 3-bedroom home and an office slash flex room, or a 4-bedroom home, and it had to be over 2,000 square feet. Also, if the house was 2 floors, we need to have a spare room or an office on the first floor that I could have my 150-gallon turtle tank in, since it's not good to have that much water on the second floor in case of some kind of catastrophic thing where your tank breaks or the filter malfunctions and all the water comes down to the first floor. With all that, I wanted also 4.99 interest rate, which at the current time I was getting quoted around 7 plus for an interest rate, but I wanted the builder to buy down my interest rate, which is something that a lot of people don't know that they'll do on these new construction homes. And I also wanted some sort of closing costs paid for. Now, before we even looked at the houses, I knew that the salesperson that called me had that 4.99% rate, and they were offering $7,500 off on closing costs. So before we even looked at the house, I knew a chunk of the deal that I was looking for was already there. And now it was just to make sure the house we were looking for was actually the one we wanted to live and work out of. So we're on our way to New Braunfels to finally see a couple homes that were potential options. This was a boutique neighborhood called Lark Canyon by Meritage Homes. Only 250 houses were going to be built in there, and they'd be built out in the next 3 years, which was perfect because selling down the road when the builder is selling the exact same floor plan in that neighborhood is something you want to avoid at all costs, because it's hard to compete whenever they're building that exact same house but brand new right around the corner. Also, the tax rate was 1.36 compared to the master community 2 miles away that was almost double the percentage. We pulled into the neighborhood, and right off the bat I noticed there was an HEB right outside the neighborhood, plenty of restaurants, the chiropractor we go to, everything we possibly needed was within a mile of the neighborhood, and we were like 3 miles away from the center and the Tube Chute, which is one of my favorite places in Texas. All this on the west side of I-35, which should have less foundation issues due to the rocky ground, and we were in the edge of the hill country, so you still get those vibes of living with a little bit of elevation. We toured both the houses, and the second home ended up having everything and more that we were looking for. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, an office and a loft at 2,400 square feet. Master suite on the first floor and an office with clear glass doors that looked perfect for my dream reptile room. Then upstairs, 3 more bedrooms and a loft. So we can finally have our guest room. This home also already had blinds and a garage door opener and an irrigation system, which they do put into the price of the home. It's not like they give it to you for free, but it's something that you have to do in a lot of other new builds after you buy your house. This was also a spec home, which means the builder designs it all for you. It's pre-designed. You just have to make sure that's what you want, because you can't go in there and choose your own flooring, bathrooms, backsplashes. And we were super happy with what he had seen on the second house that he showed us. So after touring the homes, we were pretty sure we were going to get this house, but we didn't want to tell the salesperson because I wanted to make it seem like we liked the house, but it wasn't something we could live without, because there are hundreds of brand new homes being built. I think right now there's 400 or 500 brand new homes on the market, and those are the ones that are just on the MLS. So I told my wife, don't act like we're super excited. Let's make him sweat it a little bit. We know this is the deal we want. Let's go home and sleep on it. We'll come back first thing in the morning. So I told him, hey man, we're gonna go home. We're gonna sleep on it a little bit. We're gonna talk about it, see if this is the right decision, because this is our biggest decision we've ever made so far, and we'll be back first thing in the morning. So at home that night, I decided to dig into the internet, and I was plugging in that address of this house we were looking at everywhere I could find, and I found this random ad where they had posted this house the month prior for about $2,000 less, but it was also with a totally different deal. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, they probably won't offer it, but I'm going to throw it out there and see if we can get this $2,000 off, even though in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't a deal breaker. So we slept on it, or didn't really sleep. We were super excited. First thing in the morning, booked it back over to New Braunfels, grabbed the keys, told him, hey man, we want to sit here in the house by ourselves and just kind of think if this is the house we want to live in the next 5-10 years. So we got the keys, went in that house, we started planning out all the rooms, opening every single cabinet, checking toilets, flushing everything, just making sure things looked right. And we sat there for probably an hour or two and just thought, are we gonna have buyer's remorse after buying this house, or is this what we wanted to do? And ultimately we were like, let's go up to the front and let's talk to them about a little bit of negotiations. So we locked the house back up, went up to the sales office, which was the model home, and found Michael, the salesperson, right? Super cool guy. And I was like, hey man, here's the deal. I found this house last night for $2,000 less. It was actually about $1,900 less. I said, I found this house for $2,000 less, and I'll just wonder if y'all would like honor this price instead of the price that you have it for sale that we've already been talking about. And he was like, let me call my manager. So he calls his manager. He comes back and says, hey man, how about we give you a $1,900 refrigerator instead, and if that's something you're interested in, we could just call it even. Well, in my head, I was thinking, I have a refrigerator at home, so I don't really need another refrigerator, but it was an older one that I could totally put in the garage. I always wanted a garage refrigerator. So I said, okay, looked up the fridge. It was about $1,900 at Home Depot. And I told him, okay, well, I definitely like the fridge, but I still want you to see if you can get that $2,000 or $1,900 taken off the price tag. And if you can do that, maybe we have a deal. So he goes back, calls his manager, comes outside and says, hey, my manager gave me the okay. If you are good with it, I am. If you sign a contract today and give us the earnest money, we'll pull this house off the market and it'll be yours. I looked at my wife because you already know it's gotta be the wife's gotta give you the okay. Happy wife, happy life. So I looked at her and said, hey, do you want this home? If so, you give us the okay. And she said she loved it. So we went ahead and shook his hand, gave him our earnest money, and signed a contract. Well, that's my home buying story. I hope this video helps anyone who is watching get in the mindset of buying a home in this current market we are in. There are literally deals everywhere just waiting to be pounced on. I'd be honored to help you through this home buying experience, and I'm only a text or phone call away. You can even hit me up if you just want to talk about keeping exotic pets. This is Scott Smith, your exotic pet keeping realtor, signing out. Have a great day.